Hi, today I'm looking for tree pipits. Now on the estate where I do my local bird photography, we haven't had tree pipits for many years. I can remember them being there 50 years ago, but long time. So I've come to the nearest patch where I believe there are tree pipits, and bird watching, like photography, has changed a lot. You don't have to go out looking for tree pipits anymore, you go online first of all to find them. So I looked on the eBird website, I'll put a link to that in the description, and from there very quickly I could see where the densest population of tree pipits were. So then I came up here and just started walking, and after an hour I found 2 territories. Now my next problem was, would I remember what the song of a tree pipit was like? It's been a long time since I'd heard one. I just assumed that as soon as I heard it, it would come back to me. I could remember it's a rising set of notes followed by a sort of parachuting set of notes. It goes up and down in both its song flight and its song. So I could remember that, and as soon as I heard it, and I only heard about 3 or 4 notes on the rising side of the scale, and I thought, that's it, that's a tree pipit. But again, hasn't bird watching changed so much? Just to confirm it, I then just pull out my mobile phone, I go to the Merlin app. If you haven't got the Merlin app, you've got to get it. It's free and it's just fantastic. And I just put the recording sound on there, and very quickly, within seconds, it said tree pipit singing. It's not 100%. I've managed to find flaws in it where it doesn't pick up bird songs. I was watching nightingale a few weeks ago, and I hadn't heard nightingale for a few years either. But I heard one, I thought, that's a nightingale. It was distant, but nightingale. This didn't pick it up, and it normally does. Even in the distance, it picks things up. The only thing I could think of is there was lots, and I mean lots, of song thrushes singing all around. And although it's not the same song as a nightingale, it's those high-pitched calls, and because there was a lot of them going on together, did that confuse it? When I got closer to the nightingale, it did pick it up as a nightingale, just didn't pick it up in the distance. But often it's picking up birds very long distances away, and I think, oh, it's wrong, that bird isn't here. But it tells me, let's say it says there's a reed bunting there, and then if I cup my ears and I spin round, I think, oh, it's right, there is a reed bunting over there. Marvellous app. So having found my tree pipit, I then just put a bit of time into watching it. I'd either just walk around or occasionally sit down on my stool and just see where the bird was landing. And this tree here was the one it landed in the most often. There's also a silver birch, another 30 metres that way, it landed in that quite often. But this one it really seemed to like, and not only did it land in the top of the tree, but it came down to the lower branches. So that got my interest up. Now, how approachable are tree pipits? Well, surprisingly, they're very approachable, more so than a meadow pipit. Meadow pipits can be approachable, especially around our coastal areas, coastal heathland, where they're so used to people walking there. But in the Midlands, you wouldn't normally walk up to a meadow pipit. Tree pipits, I can remember doing so several times over my lifetime. So I thought I stood a very good chance if I just put my camping stool down and just sat by that tree. And I did. 20 minutes after I sat there, it came into the tree and started to sing and feed and walk up and down the branches, as tree pipits are very prone to doing. That was it singing, if you could hear it. Oh, it's in the tree. Even when I'm standing here, it's in the tree. The rising set of notes followed by the descending set matches the display flight. They take off from a tree, they go high up into the air with the rising notes, and then parachute back down with the descending notes calling, and land either on the same tree or another tree. It's a regular feature of tree pipits. I can't think of another British species of bird that walks along the branches quite like a tree pipit does. They really use them as highways across the trees. They stop and peck, eat a few insects, and then sing, and then go for another walk along a branch. I'm using the Panasonic GH6 to shoot the video, and I do feel that autofocus is better than the OM-1 camera in video mode. Not for stills photography, just video. But there is another firmware update for the OM-1 that I haven't done yet, version 1.5, and that is supposed to improve the autofocus in video mode. But the GH6 was doing quite a good job of keeping it in focus. We'll look at a few stills pictures. These are all taken with the OM-1, the 150 to 400mm lens with the built-in 1.25 extender. I've noticed I've almost stopped using external extenders. I haven't put the 1.4 or the 2x on for a long time, but I do use the internal 1.25 a lot. With an ISO setting of 1600, I was getting a shutter speed of 0.02 of a second with the lens wide open. Occasionally the pipit landed on some other shorter trees nearby, but it really looked a mess, so I didn't put any time into trying to photograph them here. You can hear the sound of the wind in the background. I'm actually filming this with a rifle mic and with a windsock on, and although the windsock makes a big difference, you still get that wind noise. Often I dub the song of a bird onto the film track afterwards because it's so difficult to get sound and visuals right at the same time. I didn't stand up when I was photographing the tree pipit. I sat down on my stool. First of all, it's far more comfortable, but also the lower your profile, the closer that bird is going to come. If you stand up, it won't come as close as if you're sitting down. And although it's coming close into the tree, I particularly want it to come to the lower branches. So the lower I am, the more chance of that happening. The other thing I could have done and was thinking of doing was bringing a bag hide with me. This place is a bit too public to be putting up a normal hide, but I could have just sat here on my stool and covered myself with a bag hide. Very useful things. I'll show you a few pictures. We actually sell bag hides. It's one of the things we do, and we've got 3 colours. There's this one, first of all. This is the leaf pattern. They're all the same size, so it's just different colours. And bear in mind, from the bird's point of view, the colour does not matter. You're just hiding the human shape. The colour of it makes no difference. The only reason to choose a colour is to stop people seeing you so readily from a distance. So if you're working in a reed bed or where there's light grass, this light leaf pattern would be better. If you're in a woodland, you would use this sort of army woodland type pattern. But it really doesn't make a great deal of difference. The third one we sell is this one. This is the invisible one. We don't actually sell that many of these. Customers don't really like them because they keep losing them. So I didn't have to use a bag hide here. I was just able to sit on the stool and the bird came in and performed very well for me. But those bag hides can be very useful. Now, I did leave it till quite late in the day. I got here about 3 o'clock, started to film about 3:30, and it's now coming up to close to 8 o'clock. You really want the light low in the sky. Very important because there's leaves on that tree and the light has got to get underneath the leaves. If I did it in the middle of the day, it would all be shadow. No good at all. Thanks for watching.